All right. Somehow forcing me to try to do this at 11. I started doing this at 10:30. It's now just about 11 o'clock on May 3rd, 2025. First time I set up the stream, it was not starting. The second time I started the stream, I went in almost 5 minutes talking, and then it froze and then shut down. So here we are again. Third time's a charm, hopefully. We either need to get a new computer or something's going on that I am not aware of, and we need to move on. But I'm Dylan Lang. This is my show, Dylan Knows, episode 605, Thunderbolts, or Sin Bolts, Sin Bolts. Thunderbolts came out this weekend. This weekend in May is huge. Thunderbolts came out today, or on Friday, and I saw it. I also saw Sinners back to back, actually, and I have my reviews inside. Maybe some slight spoilers, not too much. It was Free Comic Book Day today. For the second year in a row, I didn't go to it, and I didn't really push it on my show, which sucks because I think it's a great idea, but I just couldn't get to it. Fortnite's new season started on Friday. It's a Star Wars season. I've had 4 Vic Royales, including 3 straight this morning. And also the very first match I ever played in this new season, I got a Vic Royale also. Unlimited firing power. You can fly TIE fighters and X-Wings, lightsabers, learn Force things. Star Wars POIs is really kind of interesting. It's also not her prom, but my daughter's friend's prom is tonight in Pennsylvania. So a bunch of them are going up to do that. So she's going to spend the night up there. She looked really adorable in her outfit. This weekend also gave us the Towson Town Festival. The Kentucky Derby was this weekend. Camping. My son is up at Broad Creek for NYLT. He is a little bit worried about the rain that's been going through. We've been having waves of rain that's been going through over the evening. Some thunder, but nothing, and some heavy rain, but nothing too major. But he's a little nervous about it, so hopefully he'll be okay. We're still supposed to get some more today, so later tonight, so we'll see how that rolls out. Right now it's not raining, and I was looking at the radar. There's no rain in my area, so I don't know why they're still calling for rain in the area, so I don't know. Hopefully it'll stay that way. All the rain seems to be pushed up to Pennsylvania. Unless that rain in southern Pennsylvania is coming down this way. If it is, then we're going to get nailed. What else is going on? There was, when I was taking my son to Broad Creek, there was a carnival at this place called Norristown, and Ladue Gardens was having a Friday how do you do sort of thing, so that was both busy. And my wife had camporee, and they came back early because of the potential for storms, which kind of screwed up how I was going to do things today. I was going to do a list show and watch a movie and then do this show and eat some ice cream, but I can't do all that now, so I'm just doing this show, and I can't even get this show off of the ground because the computer keeps fucking it up. So I'm a little annoyed. This annoyance is going to go into talking about the traffic that happened on Friday. And just continuing my annoyance. In Dreams returns in this episode. We also learn about something potentially bad that could happen on May 10th, but not too bad, but still something that's kind of interesting. We get some new food and some new drink, a lot of first looks, some trailers. Production starts, production ends, some casting. My mom's birthday was this past week. I remember this weekend was also the Mayfair Elementary School, which was a big thing where we used to sell homemade fudge at the Mayfair, and the entire school had to bring in certain recipes, and the kitchen staff would whip it up and sell it, and the money would go to the school. So we would bring in, the kindergarten kids would have to bring in like chocolate chips, and first graders had to bring in marshmallow cream or marshmallow whip or whatever. And then the second graders had to bring in this, and third graders would bring eggs and stuff like that. And then they would just make it this really nice. It was really good fudge too. It was kind of event. There was a couple yard sales in the area today too. Um, it is that weird month, May, where it starts getting warmer. April has been kind of a little bit chillier and start getting warmer near the end. We're starting to get into some more warm here in May. But a little bit more rain here, and then we're going to start going through this, and summer is going to start slowly creeping in. I absolutely despise summer in this area, so that's making me even more pissed off. My work has been pissing me off a lot, so I'm just generally all pissed off right now. So far, so good. We'll see what happens, but let's get moving so that I don't have another breakdown. If this breaks down again, I'm going to have to try it for tomorrow, and I really don't want to wait till tomorrow to do this. So let's start off with some food. I'm a big fan and proponent of Arby's. I don't understand all the hate for Arby's. I did a whole video, well, partially was about why you shouldn't hate on Arby's. We just found out they're releasing something called steak nuggets, and this is not fake news. This is actual things. Didn't see it in my Arby's. I was there today, but it's probably going to be making its way down eventually. It's what you hear is little chunks of steak that you use dipping sauces for and stuff like that. And their brisket, break it up like that. So that's pretty interesting to see that. Something different. Nobody's ever seen that before. So that's something good. Sovereignty won the Kentucky Derby, was not the favorite. The favorite came in second. Horse racing really isn't as big of a deal anymore. We had our first Triple Crown winner back in 2016 since like the 1970s. So I used to be a much bigger deal here in Maryland because we have the Preakness, which is the second leg of the Triple Crown. But what happens is that since it takes place 2 weeks after the Derby, that's not enough time for a lot of the horses to recover from the race. So a lot of the horses that didn't do very well in the Derby are not going to come back for the Preakness. So you have a whole bunch of new horses you're going to have to go up on. But we do have important things that if the person who won the Derby doesn't win Preakness, there's no chance for a Triple Crown. So then the third leg of the Triple Crown, which is like 3 weeks after the Preakness, which is about the right amount of time for the horses to recover, doesn't get a lot of coverage either. It used to be a big deal. Boxing and horse racing used to be two really big deal sports in our country, but no more because, I don't know, they just sort of fizzled away. I kind of understand them because they're both kind of, okay, whatever. May 10th. Let's give some backstory here. The Soviets are really the only country in the world who have explored Venus. And Venus is really hard to explore because the pressure and the heat is so bad on the planet's surface that any metal object or whatever that lands on there has literally only a seconds, maybe minutes on there before it gets destroyed. So, but we've gotten some good views from Russian satellites, but nothing really too good. There's no rovers that can go through Venus because there's just no way it can survive. So this was back in the 70s, I guess, is when the Russians were really doing this exploration of Venus, since nobody was doing it really. And they have sent a bunch of spacecraft there. One of which they sent failed its mission after it breached Earth's atmosphere, and so did not make its way to Venus. And so it's just been orbiting the Earth now since the 1970s. Well, we learned that May 10th, this Soviet mission that failed will be entering Earth's atmosphere and crash landing. It's not a controlled destruction like a lot of satellites are. This is a unknown. Nobody knows where it's going to crash land. They have a vague window where it could potentially crash. A lot of it's water, so a lot of people are thinking it's just going to be a water thing, but there is a lot of land to this. It's more of a southern hemisphere thing. So could actually conceivably crash into the middle of a town, somebody's house, a building, a school, or it could crash in the water, or it could just crash in the desert where nobody's around, sort of thing. So nobody's going to know. So May 10th, they're going to know for sure. They might be able to get a trajectory eventually, but they are not controlling the descent. It is doing it on its own. So they have no idea where it's going to land. So just be forewarned, it should not affect us up here in the Northern Hemisphere, but just in case. Amazon Prime has been releasing a bunch of first looks lately. One of the first looks they have is a new show called Countdown with Jensen Ackles and Eric Dane, set to debut June 25th. Just got a couple good looks at it. Doesn't really look like anything too spectacular to me. And then we get our first trailer for Overcompensating, due out May 16th, which is a Prime show. And basically, it's a college show. So a guy is a freshman in college and goes to a college, but he seems kind of off. A lot of people think he might be gay or that he's closeted, but he doesn't believe he is. And he meets a really cute girl and they try to strike up a relationship, but it just doesn't work. And eventually he starts to determine maybe he is gay, and then we're going to follow a bunch of his friends and stuff like that in this college setting. It looks interesting, but at the same time, it just sort of looks like, I don't know. It's not something that I'm going to go out of my way to take a look at. We also get our first look at the history of sound. Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor are two men who traveled together in 1919 to record folk songs. Josh O'Connor has a pretty big role in Sinners, which is kind of interesting. So it's neat to see him going back to music again. I think Paul Mescal is playing one of the Beatles. And the Beatle movie's coming out here soon, so that's interesting. I have a lot of issues with the Avatar movies, James Cameron's Avatar movies. But they're making a ton of money and blah, blah, blah. But we got our first look at Avatar Fire and Ash, which is coming out in December. Zoe Saldana's character with a angry look on her face shooting an arrow at something, and then there was another scene that looked like it was in fire and stuff like that. So there you go. You've got Avatar 3 coming out here in December, which will probably make $1 billion again, which is just weird that a movie like that keeps making billions of dollars. So whatever. I don't know. Some food items. Spicy loaded nachos Pringles is out now. And then I discovered this. My daughter and I went to Walmart on Thursday night just to look around a little bit. And we discovered Pringles in bags. Little small bags, snack bags of Pringles, but they weren't in the Pringles containers. They were in bags, which is weird. I've never seen that before. So there are Pringles bags out there now. And then I saw this at Food Line today when I was going to do some grocery shop, and I didn't even know this was a thing. There's extra cheddar. Extra cheddar Doritos are now a thing also. I bought a bag, haven't tried them yet, because I still have some of the Buffalo Ranch ones I'm still eating here. But extra cheddar Doritos, pretty interesting. Excuse me. See, this is why I want to start at 10:30, because I already feel myself yawning and getting tired. So my son, my wife was going to Camporee, which is in a different location. And so I had to take my son up to Broad Creek on Friday. Now, Friday was just a weird day in general. I had taken off of work and I went to see Thunderbolts and Sinners. And then after I left, I started thinking, okay, it's about 3:40. I have to get home by about 4 o'clock so I can get ready and take my son and his friend up to camp because it starts between 5:30 and 6. It takes about an hour to get up there. And it's also a part of the camp that I've never been to before, has a different entrance than the regular Broad Creek one. So I had to follow my wife's directions because she said that the GPS takes her a different way, which takes her on a road that doesn't actually go through to the actual camp. So we had to go a different way, which I'd never gone before. And I'd never picked up his friend before. My wife has dropped him off a bunch of times as well. So she gave me directions, wrote down directions for that as well. So I was like, okay, 3:45. I can either just take a regular road, the regular back roads, or I could take the highway. Highway would probably be quicker. So I got onto 795. And I get on to 795 and I'm driving pretty decent. And all of a sudden I see car stopped. It's a backup and it's barely moving. It's moving, but it's barely moving. I was like, what is going on? Now remember, I had to get home quickly, even though I was only about 10 minutes from home, and the highway would be probably knock it down to 5 minutes if it was working fine, but it wasn't. So we had to straggle along, and then there was the exit for Franklin Boulevard. Okay, I'm just going to take this exit and get out of here. So I get off the exit, get off of 795. It's still moving slowly. So I get onto Franklin Boulevard, and as I pull out of the exit onto Franklin Boulevard, there are cars backed up from the light all the way back to another light. So this is back up here. It's like, oh, what is going on? So I was able to see another lane, which was completely empty, which turns into the school where my daughter's playing D&D. So I just took that lane, turned into the school, and then drove through the parking lot of the school to get to the stoplight up at the top of the school. Get there, I get onto Reisterstown Road and beat the traffic that's all backed up there. Turn onto Reisterstown Road, and there's a backup there also. I was like, what is happening? So we're moving along slowly again. So now it's getting close to like 4 o'clock. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? So then I take a back route through these nearby neighborhoods, and it's not as crowded, but there's more cars on here than usual. So I make it home just a little bit after 4. My son's all ready. My wife is going to go pick up my daughter because she doesn't have to go to camp till later, but my son has to get going. So we get his stuff, and I look at the directions she gave me for his friend's house. So I follow that. There's still heavy traffic, but it's getting a little bit better, but still there's heavy traffic. So I get to the road I need to get to, and I turn on it, and I turn on the road I need to go to. And the address that she gave me said 102 Park Home. I pulled onto Park Home, and the first house was 201. And I drove, it's like a semicircle road. So I drove and I kept looking at the houses, and they're going up 205, 207, 210, 230, 225, 230. So, and then it ends at like around 248, 250. And then I'm on a different road now. So I was like, there's no 102. So I went around again to see if it was screwed up again. Went around again, see if it was screwed up. Remember, we're getting late now because I had to leave by about 4:30. It's about 4:30 now because of all the traffic and getting to this person's house. And then I can't even find the house. So I text my wife, and she says, yeah, you're on the right road. I don't know why you don't see it, stuff like that. But I said, but there's no 102. And I said, I don't have the phone number of Noah's friend's dad, but my wife does. So she texts him. It's 246, not 102. So now it's about 4:45. And I was like, oh, great. So we get him in the car, and we start driving, and the traffic is still kind of heavy. And we get out of Reisterstown, and there's a road that we take to go called Butler. And there's a entranceway onto Butler. There's a police car that has stopped somebody on that little ramp, which is very tight. And so we got to work our way around that. And it's still kind of rush hour, so it's still kind of busy in these neighborhoods. So we drive down here. It's like, okay, there's another side road I can take where nobody is hardly ever on the road. Turn on the road, get on there, and moving pretty good. And all of a sudden, I see a back of about 4 cars. There's a car that's going the speed limit or under the speed limit, and there's 4 cars behind it, so I can't go around it. So now I'm stuck behind these slow people. So now we're going slow again. And then we get to Hunt Valley eventually, and Hunt Valley is slow because of rush hour and stuff like that. And then we get to more of the roads going to where we need to go, and there's backups there. I was like, oh my God. And it just kept going and going, backups. And then I get on the Jacksonville Pike, and I'm driving. It's a pretty decent drive. We're doing okay. But by now it's like 5:15. And we still are about, I'm like, okay, we should still be okay. We're still about a half hour away from where we need to go. And so moving along, and then we have another slowdown because Ladue Gardens, which is up there, is having a Friday night event, and everybody's going to that. So that's slow there. So we get through that, and then we get into the neighborhood. Then we go to this road called Norrisville Pike. Norrisville's having a fair that's going on at that minute. So backups on that road also. So now it's about 5:15, I guess. No, it was about 5:45 at that point, and we still are not close to Broad Creek. So we end up getting onto the one road, and it finally opens up a little bit, and we get to go a little fast. And then now we got to find this other entrance to this other camp. So we pass by the Broad Creek entrance right on time, about 6 o'clock, but that's not where we need to go. So we need to keep going down this road. And I'm looking for this one road, and I'm going miles and miles and miles. The road isn't showing up. So I'm starting to freak out, worry about that. And then eventually I finally see it, and I have to go through this little neighborhood that takes us all around here. And eventually I make it up there, and I get there at about 6:35. So basically it took me about 2 hours to get there, when it normally takes about an hour. And this extra minute would probably be an hour, 15 minutes. It took 2 hours to get there. So I dropped them off, but luckily we weren't the only ones who were slow. There were a bunch of other people who were slow. They're supposed to start 6 o'clock, so now it's 6:35, so everybody's late. So everything's all behind there. I dropped them off, and I get on the road, and I realized that my daughter wanted to go. I was supposed to drive back to Reisterstown, pick up my daughter, and drive back to Hunt Valley to pick up the shoes she wanted, because the shoes place we went to closed at 8 o'clock. So I tell her there's no way I'm going to be able to come back to Reisterstown and bring you back to Hunt Valley in time before it closes. So I said, "Do you want me to just pick up your shoes?" And she said, "Yes." Yeah. So I did. So eventually I made my way back up there, and I got home about 8:15 or so, or whatever. And then she asked if we were going to go out to dinner, what we were going to do. And I said, "We can if you want to." And I gave her a list of places we could go, or we can do Chinese. And she's like, "Well, whatever you want." And I was like, "Come on, please just make a decision." And she just was not. So I said, "Fine, we're just going to do Chinese. Is that okay?" "Yeah, that's fine." And then I felt bad. I was like, "You sure you don't want to go out?" "No, Chinese is fine." So I went and got Chinese food. And then she said, "Do you want to watch a movie?" And I said, "Sure." But she's like, "Nah, I guess not, because it's getting late, and got a late start and stuff like that." So I'm not watching a movie either. So that kind of sucked. And then this morning, played some Fortnite, was happy with that. And then all the stuff that's going on here. So it's just been kind of a weird traffic-y issue day on Friday, and just a weird weekend in general. I want a nice 3-day weekend. I still have one more day left in it, but still just like, what's the point? It's been just shitty. And I got to go back to my shitty job on Monday, where everything is shitty again. That leads us to depression. Now I'm going to talk about Thunderbolts and Sinners, so there might be some slight spoilers. I'm going to try to spoil everything, so if you don't want to hear anything about it, you can fast forward through the video or mute me until I give you a signal. You'll see the signal when I'm done talking about it. We're 23 minutes in, so I will try to aim for about maybe a 10 to 20 minute talk about it. Both movies. Oh, God. Just frustrated right now. And depressed. All right. Thunderbolts ultimately is a film about depression. It is an MCU movie that there are many people out there who are already biased against the MCU movies and are just are refusing to give it a chance, and keep bringing up the fact that it's going to make less money than Captain America Brave New World, as if it's some sort of flex or something like that. Well, they can fuck right off, because Thunderbolts is a goddamn fantastic movie. And I'm not the only one who believes that. Lots of critics, it hasn't. Again, I don't believe in the Rotten Tomatoes scale, but it's 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it means only 10% of critics who've seen the movie are giving it less than stellar reviews. It is an outstanding comic book movie about depression. You get a group of depressed people together who get betrayed, and then they have to work together to try to get revenge on the person who betrayed them. But then the person who betrayed them has an all-powerful being who's also depressed under her maul, but then he escapes her maul and loses control and has sort of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde moment and becomes a bad guy. And this team of nobodies has to save New York as it's being obliterated by this character named the Void. That's the basic premise of it. Florence Pugh returns as Yelena, the sister of Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow. I love Florence Pugh, have loved Florence Pugh forever since I first saw her in Father of the Bride 3 during COVID. I loved her in the Black Widow movie, which I think is hugely underrated. And she was in my favorite movie of last year, We Live in Time, with Andrew Garfield. Just seeing her in interviews, she's a breath of fresh air. She's a darling. She's gorgeous. She was in Oppenheimer. She does not shy away from showing nudity, having nudity. She is fun, an interesting person. She was fantastic in Hawkeye season 1, where she had great chemistry with Haley Steinfeld, and great emotional sequences with Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye at the end of that show, which shows her range. And she is a fucking fantastic actress. The movie lands squarely on her shoulders and on Lewis Pullman's shoulders, who is a spitting image of his father, Bill Pullman. Lewis Pullman first appeared in Top Gun Maverick, and has probably done a few other things, but this is his first real nitty-gritty sort of main sort of role. And he plays Bob, who turns out to be the Sentry. And the Sentry is a superhero character that was created by Paul Jenkins, similar to Miracle Man, who is this amazingly powerful person, which has all kind of like, it's just even like the MCU Superman has basically all of like Superman's powers, but there is a darkness inside him that engulfs him periodically. And when that happens, he is a dark version of Superman. Not quite. He can erase people from existence and just make a put them into this void, big depressive void. So Sentry is like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type character, and one that can't live without the other. So in order for Sentry to be all powerful, he has to have this void in him. And that's an issue, because if he loses control and the void comes back, it's really hard to beat the void. Now they've changed his storyline up a little bit for this movie, because you couldn't do how it was in the comics for obvious reasons. But the movie falls squarely on their shoulders. The rest of the cast is just sort of there in support. The only other major character who makes a big impression is Julia Louis-Dreyfus's Valentina, who is absolutely phenomenal. Again, I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I love seeing her play a Lex Luthor type of character, who is just a vicious bitch and who is like in control of all the bad stuff, but is able to walk between the raindrops and not get in trouble for doing the stuff that she's been doing. So she's fantastic in it as well. But the support is great. You got David Harbour, who plays Red Guardian, who is Yelena's father, who is a former super soldier from Russia. So he's got sort of Captain America's powers too, but he's also an older gentleman. We have Sebastian Stan's Bucky, who is honestly not really in the movie all that much if you think about it. And I think he was a little underutilized, but the sequences he's in are fantastic, including the scene where he meets the Thunderbolts for the first time. And that's outstanding as well. And some stuff near the end, it actually works out pretty good too. We also get, I don't remember the actress name, who played Ghost from the Ant-Man and the Wasp. Her role gets a lot beefier, and she's interacting with different people now. And her personality really starts to come out a little interesting, and she has some good moments as well. And then we have Wyatt Russell, the only son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, who's done a bunch of stuff, who plays John Walker, U.S. agent, who plays the, sort of the Guy Gardner type of person. He thinks he's better than now. He was introduced in the Falcon Winter Soldier TV series and was a complete and utter dick. He gave himself a super version of the super soldier serum that turned him crazy. And he's still kind of a dick here and still has sort of the Captain America power, sort of super soldier powers. And his character gets a little bit more relatable. Doesn't completely get rid of his dickishness, but he does become a bit more of an interesting character and a more complex character. The one character they did dirty, here's your first really major spoiler, is Taskmaster. I think would have been, you probably could have fit the Depression story so fit her into the Depression story as well, but they kill her literally about 5 minutes into the movie, and that's it. And she was all over the advertising for it. It was going to be a member of the team, and Taskmaster's such an interesting character, and everybody was bitching and moaning about it being a female, that might be the reason why they got rid of it, which is stupid because Taskmaster's such a great role. And I guess they just couldn't figure out how to fit Taskmaster in the story, but you could easily do it. A girl who was, killed or was, brutally hurt and disfigured by an explosion triggered by Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is the daughter of a vicious leader of like the Red Room sort of thing, treats her like shit. And she has this ability to mimic everybody. Would have been interesting to see her actually do something. I kept hoping that she would make a last second reveal, but she doesn't. So she gets taken out real early in the movie, which pissed me off a little bit. But I like the chemistry between all these characters that we have. And they begrudgingly become a team due to the fact that they're all working for Valentina. And Valentina's is now head of the CIA. And she is having impeachment, a court case to impeach her because they believe that she is doing stuff not right for the government. So they're trying to impeach her. And meanwhile, while she's touting her innocence, she's secretly removing and destroying all the stuff that could cause her to get impeached. And that includes these super soldiers. So she sends them on these people, Taskmaster, Ghost, U.S. Agent, Yelena, to all go to this one location where she will eliminate the case that they gave each of them secretly was that there's somebody is going in there to try to steal stuff from there, and their job is to take them out. And everyone was given, like U.S. Agent was given Yelena to take out. Yelena was given Ghost to take out. Ghost was given Taskmaster to take out. And I think Taskmaster was supposed to take out John Walker. So that's how it all sort of works together. If it didn't work, she was going to incinerate them and destroy them so that no proof that they've been using these black ops people for top secret things occurred. So she tried to do that, but failed. And during that time where this battle's happening, Bob was released. Apparently he was, we find out eventually, a lab experiment that they're trying to rejigger again the super soldier serum or to create a new breed of superhero after the Avengers left. And Bob was a depressive, meth-addicted guy who had nothing to lose. And they thought that he failed, but he didn't. But they locked him up, so they didn't know what to do with him, but they accidentally release him, and he has no idea who he is. Various things pop up periodically, but they all end up escaping this thing by working together. And then Bob eventually discovers his full power, and that gets Valentina interested because it means that they succeeded in the cases. So she wants to turn him into the Sentry, but she still needs to eliminate the other soldiers she put in. Meanwhile, Bucky, who is a congressman, is also trying to impeach Valentina, is given some tips from Valentina's second in command, and he's able to catch up to the Thunderbolts, who are joined by Yelena's father, Red Guardian, because Yelena is feeling depressed and feeling like she doesn't know what she's doing with her life because, she does a job for Valentina and then goes home to an empty house, drinks, sleeps, gets up and does the next case and just keeps going over and over again. She thinks about all the things she did bad, stuff like that. And she misses her family and stuff like that. So she tries to reconnect with Red Guardian, and he eventually overhears what Valentina plans on doing for them. So he goes to try to save Elaine and all them and ends up joining them together. And then they soon discover that Sentry's been moved to New York, where Valentina's taken over the old Avengers building in New York. So they go to try to stop Sentry and stop Valentina, but they get their asses kicked. But when Valentina starts pushing Sentry, his void side comes out, and he starts disintegrating people and engulfing New York City in blackness. And it's up to the Thunderbolts to try to save the day, but they can't because they don't believe in themselves because they got their asses kicked by this guy. And now they don't know what to do. They're not Avengers. They're not a lot of high-powered stuff. But Yelena's the one who has had a connection with Bob during their time when they were trying to escape from her one plan before he became Sentry. They had a connection, and she's trying to reach to him. So she walks into his void and discovers that the void is just rooms where you relive some of the most horrible things that you've ever done over and over again. And she eventually sees all the terrible stuff that she did when she was younger. And she breaks through to see Bob, who is now just Bob because Void is now taken over. And they try to get him to fight back against it. And the other Thunderbolts decide to join her and find her and work together. And they all try to work together to try to help Bob take back control of the body by working together and living in all of their anguish and pain and depression together. And obviously it works. And Valentina is able to spin this to her advantage. And here's another spoiler. She calls them her new Avengers. And that's who they actually are. That's why the asterisk is on Thunderbolts, because it's actually the new Avengers. And Valentina sets them up in a place and makes them a team, and they work together as a team and sends them out on missions to help people and stuff like that. And that's basically it. There's a lot more to it as well, but I just wanted to do a quick little recap of it. It's a really good movie. Yelena has a breakdown when she talks about how horrible her life is when she's talking to Red Guardian, and she knows that he's not her real dad, but it's the only dad that she's really known. So she calls him daddy and dad and stuff like that, and just finally is just, you're my family. And Red Guardian has always wanted her to be his daughter, but he had not been contacting Yelena because he thought that she did not want to hear from him. So they worked that out. So now they are now kind of officially like mother and or daughter and son, or daughter and father. And everyone, we know that John Walker, his wife, and took their child and left him. So he is depressed about that. Ghost didn't really get much into why she's depressed, but you got to consider all the stuff that she's been going through, how the pain that she suffers through and stuff like that. She's depressed as well. And then Lewis Pullman's Sentry was abused by his father, and then was told that he was never good enough, which is the creation of the Void, which is what the Void finally became sentience and says the same thing to him, but has the powers of the Sentry, and he's got to work to try to stop him. It's a really good movie. It really makes you think about a lot of different things. It is a really good look at depression. And I don't know what else to say. I'm not a very good reviewer when it comes to stuff like this. I don't have the flowery language or what you want me to say, but it's just a great movie. And it really tackles issues that you don't really see all that much in comic book movies. And there's no real major final battle with the villain. There is kind of, but that's more of a emotional instead of like a physical altercation sort of thing, and pretty good. So we have two mid. We have a mid-credit and end-credit sequence, and they flipped them. The mid-credit sequence, which is usually the important one you want to see, which is going to lead into like news stories and stuff like that, is actually is a comedic one where Red Guardian, who's now a member of the New Avengers, and they're taking the world by storm. They're on magazine covers, on Wheaties boxes, stuff like that. He's at a grocery store, and there's a woman who is grocery shopping, and he just starts talking to her about buying the Wheaties and trying to point out that he's on it, but without saying it, stuff like that. And it kind of creeps her out, and she leaves, and he's just sort of standing there kind of sad to say, hey, look, I'm on this box, which is kind of silly considering that's what his character does for a lot of the show. And then the finale, the final credit sequence, and here's another spoiler. It takes place 14 months after the end of Thunderbolts, and the New Avengers have been ensconced, but they're not being respected as Avengers because Sam Wilson's creating his own version of the Avengers, and Bucky's gone to talk to him apparently about can they work out a deal or something like that to be two separate teams or whatever, and it didn't go well. And so they're just kind of depressed because nobody really treats them or believes them that they are Avengers, which is what they want to be. They're trying to do good stuff. They've got a headquarters, they've got uniforms, stuff like that. When they get a beeping noise of a multiversal spaceship entering their galaxy, and they put it up on the screen, and it's the Fantastic Four's rocket, and that's where it ends. So we know it looks like the next MCU movie is Fantastic Four coming out in July, and the theory behind that is that it takes place in an alternate dimension where it's going to collapse, and they're going to need the help of another dimension, which is the one that we're seeing in the MCU, and that they're going to make their way over there. And this just sort of bulks up that that's what's going to happen. So sets up sets up basically kind of doomsday, because Fantastic Four is going to probably take place mostly in their dimension until the end, maybe, where they're going to have to leave, and you'll see what happens with that. They've started filming on Doomsday. So the Avengers have started to get together. So Sam and Thor and all of them are all sort of hanging out. So it's good. So Thunderbolts is really good. I highly recommend you go see it. It's one of those movies I can watch. It'll be one of those I'd probably be able to watch over and over again. It is that good. Florence Pugh is phenomenal. Louis Pullman's great as well. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, David Harbour, Ghost, Wyatt Russell, and poor Taskmaster, who's barely in it. And even the woman who plays the right-hand man, and Sebastian Stan, and the woman who plays the right-hand man to Julie Louis-Dreyfus is really good too. It's a great movie. It's not a fun movie, but it's an entertaining movie, and it is a fun movie. It has its moments of fun, but it is, in essence, a story about depression. And you don't really see it all that often. So brilliant. Go see that. I also saw Sinners. I went into Sinners because everybody's saying how great it is. It's like one of the best movies of the year so far. It deserves all kinds of awards. It's been making a lot of money. The people who are predisposed to hate on Marvel movies are like saying, we need more of these sort of original sort of films. And they're pissed that it's leaving IMAX for this Marvel movie. But that's just the way the deal is with IMAX. It stays in IMAX for 2 weeks until the next movie comes out. Thunderbolts is going to be in there for 2 weeks before Final Destination kicks them out. So get used to it, suck it up. That's the way it is. So I was going in with some trepidation, because when I started hearing about how everyone says how something is so good, and these film pundits who I absolutely hate are talking about how great it is, I start getting a feeling in my stomach that I'm not going to enjoy it. But I went in to watch it, and it lives up to the billing. It is a fantastically great film. It is probably one of the best films of the year so far. It should definitely get some Oscar nominations, but it probably won't, or probably won't get as many, or probably won't win because it is in essence, not in essence, but they have a it's a vampire movie for the most part. People who don't really go in and watch the whole film and see the nuance and the stuff like that about what else is going on, they're just going to see it as that vampire movie. And horror movies, stuff like that, tend to not do very well at the Oscars anyway. But that being said, it's not quite a vampire movie. It's a great film directed by Ryan Coogler, who keeps his string of huge hits coming. I can see why Chris Nolan told him, gave him the advice to shoot it in IMAX, and absolutely, Coogler is trying to set up a time and a place like 1930s. I think it was 1932 is when this takes place. 1930s in the South. It's a sexy, sultry, scary, Southern Gothic historical set piece set in the 1930s South, where Klan members don't exist, but the Klan still does exist. And Black people are still treated as garbage. And we meet Smoke and Stack, who are twins. Who we learn have been working with Al Capone up in Chicago for the last 10 years or so, and have now come back with a shit ton of money and a dream to open up a juke, which is a dance hall with music and drinks and food in the middle of this town where they grew up. I want to say it's Mississippi, but don't quote me on that. So they buy this former mill from one of the Klan members that is secretly a Klan member, but they kind of know he is, but they give him the money anyway because this is the perfect location, the perfect building for it. And then they go to grab their stash of alcohol and alcohol they got from Chicago, Irish beer and Italian wine and stuff like that. And that's going to use it to stock up their drinking thing. And then they have to go and meet with a bunch of their friends to get them to come help them out and to spread the word about their juke opening up. So they are able to get a bunch of their friends to come and refurbish the place because it's going to open that night. So they bought the place and they want it to open that night. So then you get people in there to just set it up, clean it up, put the lighting up, stuff like that. So they get a bunch of their friends to do that. Then they go and they meet a bunch of their other friends to help them. They order catfish from the grocery store friends. They get a former famous sort of blues singer who's down on his luck now, played by Delroy Lindo, to be part of the music. Their cousin Sammy is a phenomenal almost guitar, a musical genius sort of thing. Just has this way about music. He's also the preacher's son. Their uncle is the preacher there who does not agree with their lifestyle. We also learn, I believe, Smoke and Stack are twins, both played by Michael B. Jordan. Smoke is the older one. He was married and they lost their baby in childbirth, and then he left her to go to Chicago, and his wife, ex-wife, whatever, it doesn't really get clarified. I think they're still married, but they're estranged. He comes back to see her. She is someone who sells like voodoo and magic stuff to people who still believe in that things. And he still kind of believes it in his mojo bag, which she uses to protect him from getting killed or hurt. And he still carries it around with him. And they reignite their passion. And she comes and he's there to ask her to be the cook for them because she is a really good cook and does stuff like that. So they reignite their passion and she agrees to help him out. And then Stack runs into a mulatto, half white, half black, played by Haley Steinfeld, who he had a lusty affair with and told her to leave because he didn't want her to get hurt because of what he was doing, because he does love her, but he wants her to sort of leave so that she doesn't get hurt by what they're doing. But she sort of sticks around and eventually makes her way over there. They run into another friend of theirs who looks like Forrest Whitaker, but it's not, to be like the bouncer at the door. And they start spreading the word to get people to come for the cotton fields and stuff like that, to come to the juke joint after their work, to just come and just unwind, drink and play cards and gamble and dance, stuff like that. Music is a huge part of the movie. We learn the early part narration about that there is a specific person, a group of people, whatever, who are given amazing musical ability, which can help, bring vibrant things to life, call the dead, lets you see the future and the past through their music. It's a magical music thing. And it appears that Sammy has that ability. And there's a great sequence in the movie where Sammy's playing his guitar and singing, and the room just changes, and you see people from the future interacting with people from their present, 1932, from people who are in the past, all mingling together, doing different dance styles and music styles. You have a rapper, you've got a DJ, and then you've got like native dancers and all kinds of all mixed together. And it is an insanely huge musical sequence, one of many in the film. But this one is to set the plot in motion, because as it is said in the narration, and then again in this sequence, that these musicians, and Sammy being one of them, is able to draw, because he's so good, life and death to his music. And that in turn, we discover there's a sect of vampires who are in the area, and they are drawn to the juke because the music, and they're musicians themselves. And the lead vampire is played by Josh O'Connor, who's Irish, and he sings Irish ditties, and he's got a pretty good voice and does some Irish dancing and stuff like that. But they're white, and they're trying to keep the white people out because this is only their thing. So, and they're acting really weird. So they're not sure. They don't know they're vampires. They're not exactly sure about them. So they sort of like shoo them off, but they just sort of linger outside the juke to try to get people to come out, and so they can get their way in, because these vampires follow the rules of you have to be invited to enter someone's place. They will be hurt by garlic, holy water, and sunlight, but it doesn't look like crosses too much hurts them, because it never really gets brought about crosses. Now, here's where one of the issues I have with the movie. I don't have a lot of issues. Same with, I don't have a lot of issues with Thunderbolts. My issue with Thunderbolts was the just dispatching of Taskmaster early on, which I think was absolutely a wrong mistake, but I'm not going to, no, it's not, it doesn't make the movie great. Same thing with this. They could have utilized this part of the story a little bit better to make it a little bit more interesting. Apparently there is a group of Native Americans who go around hunting vampires, and you see them as they enter the house where the main vampire, Josh O'Connor, goes in and is protected by them. And they're trying to, convince them that this person is not who you think he is, because those people didn't know he was a vampire at first. He's not who they think he is, and that, you should really let him come out here so we can finish them off. And they scare them off because they're racist white people and they're Indians, and plus it's getting dark, so they have to leave. We don't see the Indian vampire hunters anymore, and I think that was a wasted potential. I think that could have been awesome to see. But in essence, that's not what the story's about. I get that, but it would have been interesting to see they get introduced and they don't appear again. So kind of disappointed about that. So maybe Coogler's going to use them in the future, make a movie about them down the line. But what gets the story rolling is Smoke, who is the older sort of businessman sort of type, and Stack is just sort of the playboy, let it all hang loose, fast and loose, quick tempered sort of guy. But Smoke is the really kind of the brains behind it, and the tough guy. Discovers that the money they're putting in, they're not really making any of it back, because they're allowing a lot of the cotton pickers to use like these credits that they use at other places, I guess. But Smoke didn't want them to use that. They wanted to pay good cash, because that's the whole point. They want to make money. They don't want to use these credit chips or whatever. And because Stack was like, but these guys have worked so hard in the fields, they deserve a chance to, unwind and let loose and have their own, way to relax and stuff like that. We should let them do this. They're losing money, and they cannot stay solvent if they keep accepting these credit things. So they sort of have to nip that in the bud or get some paying customers. The three vampires, Josh O'Connor and the others who are musicians who are trying to get into dance and play music with them, they're going in to try to convert them to vampirism. They said they had money. They just wanted a place that they could use to, drink and play music and stuff like that. And they have money. So Haley Steinfeld, who is light skinned, is in real life as a half black, half white woman, and because she is the whitest of the group, they said, let me go out there and talk to them because I'm white like them. And that's just the plan in motion. She discovers they have gold, and they sing this really great Irish song, which sort of lulls her. And then she sees who they actually are and starts getting away, but then they jump and then they attack her and turn her into a vampire. And then she gets invited in because she looks normal and she's Stack's girlfriend. And she goes in there and she goes after Stack then. And that's where everything starts going haywire, where they start attacking each other in there. And then they get outside, and then other people start going outside and get taken by the vampires, and the vampires start multiplying, and then they decide that they need to get them to leave and get out of there so nobody gets hurt. And every people they send out all get turned to vampires also. So now there's a big mob of vampires outside of this juke joint. And even though they're vampires now, they have to still, even though they were in there before, they have to come back. They still have to be invited in. So they're at a standoff where there's a handful of people still in the juke joint, and the vampires are building their ranks. And that's where the second half of the movie takes place, is the sort of standoff. And it's not like From Dusk Till Dawn. It's a little bit different than that. But in essence, it still has sort of a similar feel to From Dusk Till Dawn. But here's where the rub comes in. The vampires' story about to try to convince them to let them come in is actually a very compelling idea, and would actually probably be what they were trying to do. But in order to do what they wanted to do, you'd have to be killed and turned to a vampire. And people still have this thing about not living forever and staying alive and not attacking people and drinking blood. So I can understand where the conflict is. But the vampires' idea is they're trying to create a vampire utopia. And they know that Black people are being oppressed in the 1930s South. They're being strung up. They're being castrated. They're being killed. They're being raped. And if they get turned into vampires, they will be stronger and more powerful than their oppressors. And they can take out their oppressors and live in a utopian state where there's no hatred, because they're all vampires and they all just want to live in happiness, and they can get revenge on the oppressors, the racists, the rapists, all that stuff. And it's a compelling, very, very compelling way to draw them in there. But in the end, it doesn't turn out to be that way. And we have a little bit of a vampire siege sort of thing that happens eventually. And then, most everybody gets killed for the most part, except for Sammy and and Smoke are still the ones who are left standing. Everyone else has been wiped out. But the siege lasted long enough that the sun's starting to come out, and all the vampires seem to get obliterated. But then, Smoke tells Sammy to, go to church, leave town, leave here, and stop being a musician because you're not going to make any money being a musician. You should become a preacher like your father wants you to. And Sammy just can't do it, so he leaves. And Smoke is prepping for something. He realizes that the vampires are kind of right, that the clans people still are not going to allow a successful black juke joint to be in their town. So he has a feeling that the clan group is going to come and try to take down their joint in the morning. So he preps himself, and sure enough, a group of racist white supremacists come, and Smoke takes them all out with all the guns he has. And then eventually he gets shot himself and ends up dying. But all the white racists die. So Sammy's the only one who survives. And then, spoiler alert, he ends up not giving up his music and ends up becoming one of the most famous blues musicians of all time. So we fast forward to like 1992, where he's like 93 years old now and still playing music. And he's at a bar and he's drinking. And this is the mid-credit sequence after the movie's over. One of the people that works at the bar says, "Hey, there's two people here who want to come in. We're closing. Is it okay if they come in?" And they're like, "Yeah, he is." So they come in. It's Stack and Haley Steinfeld's character, the vampires who survived the bloodbath. And Sammy knows exactly who they are, and they know who Sammy is. And Stack and him have a discussion saying that when Smoke and him were facing off in the siege, Smoke pretty much had him beaten, but he couldn't kill his brother. So he said, "I'm going to let you go, but you do not lay a finger on Sammy ever." And Stack agrees to it, their brothers and stuff like that. And he takes Haley Steinfeld, who's his lover, and they go away and are able to survive to go into hiding during the night and during the day and come out at night. And they're survived to 1992. And it's a great scene where, they're showing nothing but love. They're not there to attack, and they just want to, say, "Hey, what's going on? We're still here. We're not going to hurt you." And then he like sniffs them and says, "Look, you don't have a lot of time. Do you want us to change you so you can live forever?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm good." And so Stack's like, "Okay." And then he's like, "We are big fans of yours. We have all your song albums, but it just doesn't sound right. Can we get a little live music?" And then Sammy plays live version of the song for him, and it ends. It's really tear jerking moment. And then Stack and Haley Steinfeld leave, and it's a phenomenal sequence. It's a great fucking movie. It lives up to the hype. As I said, it's very sexual. It's very sultry. It's very gothic South. Coogler uses the setting to his advantage. Which I love, vast vista shots of cotton fields and pink skies, and the town is gorgeous. He's able to recreate 1932 Mississippi or whatever it is fantastically. And they don't use modern slang and stuff like that. They use slang from that time frame. Coogler did his research. Michael B. Jordan is so charismatic, and he's able to portray the twins so who is who. Because Smoke is the more somber, tight-assed one, and Stack is the brusque, sort of character that Michael B. Jordan always seems to play. So it's kind of nice. You can tell that. And just the characters that are developed are so great. And the theme really is about music. And as I said, how Sammy is the one that draws his music, is able to draw future, past, present, good, evil, dead, alive, all are brought to life by his music. And there are just certain people who do that. And so there's lots of these musical numbers, and they're actually not too bad. it's a juke joint, so you get like 2 or 3 musical numbers in that thing. I think maybe it goes a little long here and there, but it's actually it's entertaining and I like it a lot. It's fine. Um, there's a lot of cunnilingus, which is really interesting that they really got into the eating pussy aspect of it, which is really cool. And you get a bunch of sex sequences, no nudity though, which is really interesting considering um, you get a little of a nip slip here, but not really. There really isn't any nudity in it, but there's a lot of sex in it. And I guess 1930s South, that's kind of how you do stuff. You weren't like stripping off completely naked and banging each other up against the walls and stuff like that. Um, but still, it's a really entertaining film. Great cast. It lives up to the hype. It is really good. And I can see why people, I mean, it was shot in IMAX and why people saying you should see it in IMAX because of the way Coogler uses the vistas for it. But in the end, it's really neither here nor there. It's not about the film. It's about the story and the characters. And those you don't need IMAX to do that, because when you get to the sequences near the end, yeah, they might have been shot in IMAX, but there's really it doesn't really give it any advantage because there's no, reasoning for it. There's a couple aspects you could have used here and there, but no, absolutely. If you can see it in IMAX, they're going to re-release it in IMAX for about a week between Thunderbolts and Final Destination. But if you can see it in IMAX, that's great. But if don't, go see it anyway. It's actually really an entertaining movie and it's very good. So I give it a high recommendation as well. So I actually talked about half hour about both these films, so I got a lot more to go to. Speaking of Michael B. Jordan, this was a dream I had last Saturday after I did the show last week. I had this dream going into Sunday where Michael B. Jordan himself, myself, my mom, my sister, and my boss from work, we all ended up in this sort of like dorm-like building on this main kind of road right by the water. And a massive rainstorm sort of happens and floods right up to the windows and stuff like that. And you can see my car is underwater. But and then it just sort of dissipates and stuff like that. It was just a really vivid dream. And when I have these sort of where these actual locations are fully formed and I don't know where they came from. I mean, it's this building right on this main street, right on this water. And then there was, when this heavy rain came, it's up to the windows. And it's like a dorm-like room. So you have this big square window and like a closet here and a couple of beds here. And you look outside and there's my car buried under 4 to 5 feet of water, but it's clear water. You can see the bottom and then just sort of dissipates. It was just kind of weird. So very interesting. Last thing on this page real quick, a major death. Jackson Butch Geiss died at the age of 63. He's one of the best comic book artists of all time. One of my favorites. Passed away. He worked with a lot of different comic books. The one I remember him most from is he drew Ruse, which was a great detective sort of superhero movie comic as well for CrossGen. But he also worked on like Captain America and Spider-Man and the Avengers. And I don't think he ever really worked on DC. He was more of a Marvel guy, I think. But still really good and really sad that Jackson Geiss passed away. So now we're just going to blow on down here through. I did talk about Fortnite. Yeah, I did talk about my Star Wars Fortnite, right? If not, let's just repeat because Star Wars Fortnite is great. I had 3 Vic Royales today. I had 1 Vic Royale the first match I ever played. It's unlimited ammo and the lasers. You can fly X-Wing fighters, TIE fighters. You can learn Force powers and have lightsabers. And there's Star Wars POIs. It's a great season. I love it so far. All right, so let's move in here. The Eta Aquariid meteor shower is set to debut May 5th and 6th, Monday and Tuesday. They are meteors from Halley's Comet, so it's always interesting to see that. So that's coming here. The first picture of an exoplanet orbiting a dead star was discovered. So that'll give scientists a chance to see how can a planet be orbiting a dead star and how that affects the planet. Let's see, is there any other? Oh, yeah, there's lots of. A 5.0 earthquake hit in the North Atlantic Ocean today. 7.4 and a 6.4 earthquake hit in south of Argentina on Saturday, earlier on Saturday. An increase in smaller earthquakes rolling from Alaska down to the Philippines and Indonesia are pointing to something that could be happening very soon. And at the same time, Alaska had a 5.0 earthquake at the beginning of this week as well. So there's a lot of activity starting to really roll through here, which is building to something that's going to happen eventually. Rumors are that it could very well be one of the underwater volcanoes could be erupting here really soon due to the amount of earthquake activity we've been having. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. The Nine Perfect Strangers season 2 released their cast, set for May 21st from Hulu. Nicole Kidman, Christine Baranski, Lena Olin, Henry Golding, Mark Strong, just to name a few of the people involved. Didn't know that was such a thing, but oh well. Ta-dum! 2025, Netflix's all review, a preview of their upcoming slate of stuff is set to debut Saturday, May 31st. We're going to get our first look at Stranger Things season 5, our first look at One Piece season 2 live action. We're also going to take a look at Squid Game season 3, first look at that as well. We'll also probably get more looks at Wednesday, Sandman, anything else that Netflix got coming up, including movies, other TV shows, specials, live action things, all that's going to be introduced. So when about a month from now, when I do my June, first weekend in June episode, it's going to be a little hard because my daughter graduates on June 4th. We're going to go see Chicago on June 6th, and we're probably going to have her graduation party on June 7th. So it's going to be a busy weekend. We'll talk about Dumb, but that is set to debut May 31st, and we get our first look at Stranger Things season 5 and One Piece and all that stuff too. So that should be pretty good. Speaking of that, also we'll probably get our first look at Wake Up Dead Man, which is the third Knives Out movie with Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is pleading with Netflix to release Wake Up Dead Man in movie theaters because the second Knives Out, I forget the name of it, but it was released in like 5 movie theaters and was in for like 3 or 4 days. And then it went directly to Netflix. So you had to get Netflix to watch it directly if it didn't open in a theater near you. And on those 5 or 6 theaters where it opened, it made record-breaking daily totals for those theaters. And like 5 screens, it made like $55,000 a screen, something like that, which is huge. So there's proof that if you would have put it in the movie theater, it probably would have been a big hit. So Rian Johnson believes that is indeed going to be the case. So he's like pleading with Netflix, can you just go ahead and do that? So we'll see what happens. New study shows that Antarctica has gained ice for the first time in decades. So I hope that's good. Maybe things are turning around now for us. We can't keep our foot off of the gas. We need to work on this climate change stuff. But the fact that it's growing ice is good. There was a horse on the loose in Rhode Island, in a Rhode Island neighborhood. So that's interesting. Re-releases in movie theaters have been getting really good traction lately. Kiki's Delivery Service is set to be re-released in movie theaters in about 2 weeks, May 17th to like the 21st, something like that. I'll see if it's going to be up here. I want to see that in movie theaters. But the big one is Sound of Music is going to be remastered in 4K and re-released in movie theaters in September for the 60th anniversary. So a lot of people love Sound of Music. So if it gets a big enough wide release, just like Attack the Revenge of the Sith made $25 million in its re-release. Sound of Music could make something similar in September when they re-release that, so that could be interesting to see. The Equalizer, the Queen Latifah TV show, has been canceled after 5 seasons. Bradley Cooper is set to direct a biopic about comedian John Bishop, who I know nothing about, but okay. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are reteaming for an Amazon MGM romantic thriller, so it's always good to see those two back together. They have amazing chemistry, and it's good to see them together again. Hello Kitty has a Hello Kitty themed airport in Japan, is out there now. Grand Theft Auto 6 has now been delayed to 2026, so we'll not see that again till then. Some local news: Six Flags America in Maryland is set to shut down in November 2025. It opened back in 1974, but it is now going to shut down at the end of the season. The Little House on the Prairie update from Netflix has its cast. Crosby Fitzgerald as Caroline, Luke Bracey as Charles, Skywalker Hughes as Mary, and Alice Haley as Lara. So we have our first cast for that as well. We also have a trailer for Deep Cover. I think this is a Prime show or movie with Orlando Bloom, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Nick Mohammed, who was in Ted Lasso, as improv artists who are hired by the police to go undercover. Trailer looks pretty funny, and it looks like a pretty fun film or show, whatever it is. Little Debbie is going to go all red, white, and blue for Memorial Day and 4th of July. So they're going to be releasing red, white, and blue versions of all their goodies within the next couple of weeks, mostly for 4th of July, but you can use it for Memorial Day as well, and probably for Labor Day technically also. So it'll be out there for a while. Cherry Slurpee flavored almonds, which doesn't sound appetizing, but Blue Diamond Almonds, which are the best almonds company, has made a deal with 7-Eleven to release limited edition cherry Slurpee flavored almonds at 7-Eleven. So, okay, that's a thing. Summer of 69 movie. We get our first trailer about that, about a young girl who wants to learn about sex. So she hires a stripper to teach her about sex. It's a funny trailer. It's a funny trailer, but it's also very sexually charged. So we'll see how that actually works out. And a stranded man was airlifted from Mount Fuji in Japan, and then a few days later was rescued again from Mount Fuji after he returned to get his phone. So basically, he climbed Mount Fuji, lost his phone, had to be airlifted off of Mount Fuji, realized he lost his phone, and then wanted to go back and get it. So he climbed Mount Fuji again and had to be airlifted again after he went back up there to get his phone. Weird, wild stuff. So anniversaries. The original Spider-Man of Tobey Maguire debuted 23 years ago this week. The Craft debuted 29 years ago this week with Nev Campbell and Skeet Ulrich. The Weather Channel debuted 43 years ago this week. Iron Man, which kicked off the MCU, debuted 17 years ago this week. Death this week, we had Tilly, the oldest member of the Oregon Zoo otter family. She was 16 years old. She passed away this week. Kirk Metis, MTV's Floribama star, has died at the age of 33. And Ruth Buzzy, comedian, known mostly for Gladys Orphanby and Laugh-In, who's the weird-looking woman who would hit people with her purse. She passed away this week as well. T-Pain and Wyclef Jean are set to headline the Preakness. As I said, the Preakness is the second round of the Triple Crown, is set to come out in 2 weeks, and they will be the end here in Baltimore, and they will be the musical guests for that. Bryan Cranston and Allison Janney are set to star in Everything's Going to Be Great, about a guy trying to refurbish a theater, not a movie theater, a theater for plays and stuff. July 2nd is when Heads of State will be debuting on Prime. We talked about that last week. It's the John Cena, Idris Elba movie action comedy where John Cena as President of the United States was a actor who became President of the United States, and Idris Elba is the Prime Minister of England, and they together are trying to work out some sort of deal, and they're in an airplane that gets attacked by terrorists, and they crash land in this wooded area, and they have to survive while taking on terrorists together. So fun stuff. Josh Hutcherson has been cast in a new comedy series from comedian Rachel Sennett. He's actually been is being cast over someone else, being recast. Character was recast in that comedy after they made the pilot. Rachel Sennett didn't quite like how that person was doing stuff, so they recast Josh Hutcherson as that role, which happens all the time. Willow was not played by Allison Hannigan, the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer pilot. They brought Allison Hannigan in, and she took it over and did a better job. So it does happen more often. Josh Hutcherson will be in this new TV show. His Five Nights at Freddy co-star Matthew Lillard has been cast in the Carrie remake from Mike Flanagan, which is set to appear on Prime probably next year. Yorgos Lanthimos' next film, Begonia, which was set to debut in November, is now moved up to Halloween, October 31st. It will be debuting in movie theaters. Hikers discover 600 gold coins that date back to the 1880s, or 1818, on the trail they were at. $800,000 worth of dimes were spread across the highway after a truck overturned carrying them. Dexter Resurrection is set to return July 11th. Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem are set to play a married couple in trouble in the psychological thriller Bunker. Voltron, the Voltron movie with Henry Cavill is finished production, so we'll be seeing some stuff about that. Probably be out next year now for that. Revival based on the comic book from Image is set a June 12th debut on Sci-Fi. Adam Pearson is set to play the Elephant Man in the new Elephant Man movie. The actor Adam Pearson has the same sort of disease that Joseph Merrick had. So they're actually going to get someone who has it. And he was acting in a movie with Sebastian Stan, so he can act. So that should be interesting. It's a good casting, I think. Prime also has a comic book adaptation called Stillwater from Chip Zdarsky. And Greg Berlanti is going to be the showrunner of it. So it's been getting some good views about that. It's about a guy who is trying to discover some secrets that goes to this town where everything is not quite as it seems. So it could be kind of interesting. It's Chip Zdarsky created it, so that in and of itself is interesting. Steven Spielberg says that The Godfather is the greatest American film ever. I can't really argue with that. 29 Palms Entertainment is a brand new distribution, film distribution company trying to be the next Neon or A24. They have bought their first ever film acquisition in the movie Before We Forget. They will be they're the type of people that they make these films and then they look for distribution and distributors pick them up. So 29 Palms is going to be trying to make a statement here, so good for them. Sorry Baby trailer from A24 set to debut June, or the movie's supposed to debut June 27th. Didn't really watch that much, didn't really seem to interest me, so that's, but for those people interested, there you go. Netflix to launch the Alfred Hitchcock screening series. They've acquired a number of Alfred Hitchcock's movies, and they're going to start showing it now on Netflix in June. In 2028, the NFL will be releasing new uniforms called rivalry uniforms. They're being designed now. That's why they're not due out until 2028. But basically, what the uniforms are going to only be used in games where you're playing against your own division, like the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. Would all have rivalry uniforms that they would only wear when they're playing each other. So when the Steelers are playing the Browns, the Bengals are playing the Ravens, Ravens playing the Steelers, Ravens playing the Browns, Browns playing the Bengals, Browns playing the Steelers, Steelers playing the Bengals, Bengals playing the Browns, Steelers playing the Ravens, stuff like that. They would wear these rivalry uniforms. So it should be interesting to see what they look like, but you won't see it until 2028. In 2020, that's right. We'll talk about that's where the football end here. The Washington Commanders have gotten the official okay to build a new stadium on the site of where RFK Stadium, which was their stadium that they were in the 90s, which got them lots of Super Bowls, and is a place that people wanted the stadium to stay in instead of moving out to Landover, Maryland. So they were actually in Washington, D.C. proper. It has been okayed. They are going to be building a new stadium. It is set to open in 2029. It's going to be a dome. It's going to have a glass dome, which I think is a really cool idea. So you'll be able to see the outside. And then it's going to be like a big window, which will show you DC and stuff like that. It's a really neat looking design. Should be really cool. And because of that, it's very possibility that Roger Goodell, who is the NFL commissioner, was like, if they're able to get this built by 2029, they very well could host the Super Bowl in 2030, 2031. So we'll see about that. The Commanders also signed up Gabe Taylor, who is the brother of Sean Taylor, one of the best Washington Commanders out there. Jessica Biel and Elizabeth Banks are set to star in a new murder mystery series called The Better Sister, set to debut May 29th. Now You See Me, Now You Don't trailer, the third one, and then Now You See Me, a movie is about magic and stuff like that with all kinds of great actors in it. Woody Harrelson, Mark Ruffalo, Morgan Freeman, Jesse Eisenberg, stuff like that. The third one is set to come out on November 14th. The new trailer is out. Looks kind of interesting. Rocky Horror Picture Show is also getting the 4K treatment, though it's not going to be released in theaters. It's getting a 4K video release for the 50th anniversary. Lin-Manuel Miranda is set to be working on a project about the Molina brothers, who are a baseball dynasty. So I don't know if it'll be a musical or just a regular movie, but it'll be about Puerto Rican baseball brothers. The Bear season 4 is set to debut June 15th on Hulu. A massive brawl erupted on a Carnival cruise line, which sent 24 people to be put on the do not sail list. Anniversaries. X-Men Origins Wolverine debuted 16 years ago this week. Avengers Age of Ultron debuted 10 years ago this week. The first sighting of the Loch Ness Monster was 92 years ago this week, May 2nd, 1933. So how about that? Deaths this week also. Jill Sobel, musician who sang I Kissed a Girl and Supermodel. She died in a house fire at the age of 66. The Brazilian nun who was the oldest person in the world has passed away at the age of 116 this week. And Phil Robertson, a hockey player, died at the age of 76. I don't think that's his name, but I can't read my handwriting. The Moonrise anime from Netflix from the creators of Attack on Titan seems to be doing pretty good, so check that out. Subversion, which is Chris Hemsworth's new film for Amazon, is basically Die Hard on a submarine. Guy Ritchie is now officially going to helm Roadhouse 2 with Jake Gyllenhaal to return. The Sergeant Rock movie has stopped production and is going to restart production in 2026. Jack Black's Steve's Lava Chicken song, a 34-second song in the Minecraft movie, now has the record as the shortest song to chart in the 100 Billboard chart ranking for songs. We are officially getting a Shogun Season 2 with Cosmo Jarvis returning. I don't know what you're going to do because Shogun was based on a novel, and the limited series that you did, which won all the awards, rightfully so probably, told the story of the book. So I don't know what kind of story you're going to tell now. Apparently there's going to be a time jump. So I don't know what source material they're going to be using since they never wrote a sequel to Shogun. Caught Stealing is Darren Aronofsky's new film, set to star Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, Bad Bunny, and Matt Smith, set to debut August 29th. Jenna Ortega wants to direct a script she's been working on for 10 years. Anthony Michael Hall is re-teaming with Tim Burton for a recurring role on Wednesday Season 2. Anthony Michael Hall worked with him and Edward Scissorhands in 1990. Sam Elliott is continuing to be one of Sheridan's greatest guys. He was on Sheridan's 1883 Yellowstone prequel. He's now joining Billy Bob Thornton in Landman Season 2. On May 4th, May the 4th be with you, which now officially is May 4th, and probably happening right now because it's happening in Japan, the Osaka Comic-Con. The makers of One Piece are trying for another Guinness World Record to have the largest gathering of people wearing straw hats. That'll be done at the Osaka Comic-Con, which is going on right now since we're about 12-hour difference from Japan. It is officially 12:30 over there, probably. On May the 4th, because it is officially May the 4th now. The Smashing Machine from A24, the first trailer about MMA star Martin Kerr, starring The Rock and Emily Blunt, with Benny Safdie directing it. We get a trailer to debut October 3rd. Actually, is very decent. Looks like The Rock is actually putting in the work to become a really good actor and is portraying a regular role and could get some Oscar nominations. Emily Blunt looks, fairly sexy in this as well, playing sort of this New Yorker sort of babe wearing these outfits where you see the cleavage and stuff like that with a little bit of an accent, but she seems to be doing pretty good. This is the third or fourth time they've teamed up together, but this looks like this could very well try to be The Rock's chance to at least try to maybe get some love towards his acting. And Benny Safdie was the one that did that Adam Sandler movie, I think Uncut Diamonds, which should have given Adam Sandler some Oscar love, but didn't. Dawn to Dawn Season 2 is set to debut July 3rd on Netflix. We're getting a Desperate Housewives remake series or whatever called Wisteria Lane, or reboot series, whatever. North of North, the Netflix show that's compared to Northern Exposure, has been renewed for a second season. Martin Short is supposed to take over as the host of the new version of The Match Game on ABC. Alec Baldwin previously hosted one. The Mark, Jessica Alba, is set to star in this thriller from the Other Boleyn Girl director. Stephen Root has joined the cast of Alien Resident Alien Season 4. Stephen Root's always a good guy, good character actor to have in your show. The Weapons trailer and poster from the director of Barbarian about all the children who left at 2:17 a.m. at night to go into the woods we've never seen before. We get our first full-length trailer of that and a poster. It looks very creepy. Warner Brothers announces block party editions of the Minecraft movie, where they are trying to let people go a little bit more crazy in the movie theaters. Anna Sarin joins the cast of The Heist, or Samus joins the cast of The Heist. Greg Berlanti, who's doing the comic book, the Chip Zdarsky show, is also doing a show called Foster Dade for Hulu. Lipton Fusion lemonade iced teas are coming out here soon. They got a strawberry lemonade iced tea coming out in a mango peach sort of one as well. Twisted Metal season 2 trailer. We get a good look at the Anthony Mackie, Stephanie Beatrice based show based on the video game. Looks pretty much what you expect. Brad Pitt to star in A24 movie The Riders. And a Miami Vice movie is said to be directed by Top Gun Mavericks director Joseph Kosinski. Deaths, Priscilla Pointer, Dallas actress, Carrie actress, also the mother of Amy Irving, died at the age of 101. Mike Peters, lead singer of Alarm, died at the age of 66. And Jeff Spearberg, a longtime friend, business partner of John Elway, died in a golf cart accident. Anniversaries: Idle Hands debuted 26 years ago this week. Mean Girls debuted 21 years ago this week. Mothra vs. Godzilla debuted 61 years ago this week. Now we're down to our final section. Orlando Bloom, Domhnall Gleeson to join Kate and Rooney Mara in Werner Herzog's Bucking Fastard movie. Mars Orbiter snaps a pic of Curiosity on the surface of Mars. And Jeremy Renner was offered half of his salary for season 1 of Hawkeye for season 2. That is why he turned it down and why there is no season 2 of Hawkeye. That's it for the stories. Anniversaries: Avengers Infinity War came out 7 years ago this week. Deaths: Tom Brown, a University of Maryland Hall of Famer and a football player, passed away at the age of 84. And Stan Kane, former NBA player, Stan Love, former NBA player and father of Kevin Love, who's currently an NBA player, died at the age of 76. So after a hard start, I was able to get through this show. So that's it for today's episode of Dylan Knows. It's officially May the 4th, so May the 4th be with you. Do something Star Wars related, though this is Orthodox Star Wars Day. Real Star Wars Day is May 25th, but go out and do something Star Wars related if you want. We're going to be getting some rain here from now to like Wednesday, so we need it, but it's still going to be kind of rough. But I've been meaning to watch. I think I've been wanting to watch The Force Awakens, so I might pop that in. Plus, I'm going to play some Fortnite Star Wars later today. Also, is my plan, and hopefully today I'll be able to rest a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely go see Thunderbolts. Go see Sinners. Both are brilliant movies. Both deserve to be seen. Both deserve to be loved by everybody because both are really, really good movies. Definitely check it out. I highly recommend both of them. And I hope I didn't spoil too much. I don't think I did, but I might have. In the end, I'm sorry. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say. Next week is Mother's Day weekend. Other than that, I don't really think Cinco de Mayo is on Monday. My nephew's birthday is on Monday. Mother's Day is next Sunday, which means I got to start finding stuff to get for my wife, even though she's not my mother, and then find something for my mother. Oh, well. Time to move on.